Wow. Welcome once again to the Russell Brown Show, and this special tutorial that's all about working with the Profoto C1 Plus in combination with an iPhone. The C1 Plus is a strobe that is synchronized with the iPhone using Bluetooth technology. It's incredible. Now let me point out first that I am not sponsored by Profoto. I only show products that I enjoy using and that I like. That's it. And that's why I'm going to demonstrate how I've been using this. In several of my projects, I've used this. For example, here on the island of Maui, I took these photographs of these taiko drummers and I used two C1 Plus strobes synchronized with my iPhone, as you see here, to get some amazing results that look like this. Wow! So that was my first project. Here's my second project. In this case, I had some fine bottle designs and I wanted to capture these amazing bottles. I've placed the C1 Plus directly underneath the bottle to light it from below. I've turned on the modeling light in this case so I can see and preview the results before I hit the strobe. Wow! The results look like this. Incredible. So those are two great applications for using the Profoto with an iPhone. Now in this project, I took a photograph of this flower in my studio because I want to demonstrate how I set up the software. And of course, the Profoto strobe comes with its own software created by Profoto that controls the power level of the strobe and synchronizes it with the camera. Check this out. I can trigger the strobe and take a photograph directly from the iPhone or from the strobe itself. I can pick up the strobe, for example, move it around, get closer to the subject, and not be near my iPhone, and I can trigger the whole process and take a picture. Really, really well thought out. In fact, the hardware design and the software design for this product is, in my book, incredible. Okay, the results from this shoot then looked like this. Here I'm photographing with the light in the front, and here is the light in the background for this backlit effect. Some great results. The creative options are incredible. Here's some other examples where I've used the Profoto. Here in the desert with a self-portrait. Here in a studio lighting these models. And here in the desert photographing this sculpture. So I really like the creative options I can achieve with the Profoto strobe. Here we're going to review the software itself, and this is most important. I want to demonstrate the settings I used, for example, for the taiko drummers as well as the bottles I photographed. Up here in the right-hand corner are the settings, right here. First of all, I'm going to switch this to the JPEG and RAW settings here. I want to capture both, but I especially want the RAW because that's what I use in Lightroom to process my final images. Now, let's talk about the software and how it controls the strobe and some of the settings I use. Here under Flash, right here, you have two different settings. Dramatic, that is the highest power setting, and Natural, the lowest power setting. In my case, I switch it up to about an 8.7. I like a little bit more dramatic. I get my best results with dramatic, and you will too. Here under Continuous Light, you can turn on the modeling light that I discussed. I much prefer this technique. It allows me to focus correctly with the lights on, and I can preview how the light will fall over my subject. Fantastic. Color temperature. Here you can adjust the overall temperature, cooler or warmer, for your lights. Next, and most important, exposure. There are two settings up here, auto and manual. First, I'll discuss auto. Auto setting, right here, does an exposure compensation. You have no control over ISO or shutter speed, but you do have the ability to compensate, and it will then automatically choose the ISO and exposure for you. Check this out. If I send it to a -3 here, I can then darken the image. And you can see that preview on the screen of how it's going to darken the image. Now, I prefer to go to the manual mode directly. And here's why. The manual mode lets me adjust the ISO and shutter speed. These are critical. For example, if I drop the ISO to its lowest value of 20, I can get very little noise in my image. If I increase it up to 500, then you can introduce a lot of noise. You may have to do that for certain projects, but this then shows you exactly what you're going to get. Here you can see in this Taiko drummer shot, my ISO was a little too high, and I got a lot of noise here in the sky. However, I found that in the image area where the light was hitting the performers, the noise was not as bad. Something to keep in mind, in the darker regions where you have a high ISO, you will get a lot of noise. Check this out. With this icon on, you can then preview how your image will be photographed. With this icon off, you then see the image in this fashion without any screen compensation for the exposure. And of course, here under white balance, you can make adjustments. And of course, you have the ability to adjust the zoom here, 1x, 2x, and even your wide angle. All of the settings that you would find on your iPhone. Here are the results that I achieved by setting this up in this project. Finally, I wanted to discuss another technique I use with this strobe. Here with the iPhone and using the iPhone application directly, I'm shooting here just at sunrise, and it's a bit dark, so I can have a 30-second exposure with the iPhone using the night mode setting. About 5 seconds into the night mode setting, I can trigger the flash, as you see here, and I can light my subject up, and it will then add this exposure to the 30 seconds. It is not synchronized with the iPhone, it's simply a long exposure where I'm adding light to the image. It's another technique you can try. So there you have it. Some great tips and techniques on how I used the Profoto C1 Plus for strobe photography with my projects as you've seen here on The Russell Brown Show. Give these tips and techniques a try if you're using the Profoto C1 Plus for your photography with your iPhone. There you have it. Give it a try.